Feeling friends is this concept that I came up with laying in bed one night. I have all these close friends who have these wonderful stories that can help change the world, life experiences that can help other people believe in themselves, hold tight to their dreams and make their dreams reality. On Feeling Friends, we talk about God, we talk about love, relationships. I have celebrity friends, I have non-celebrity friends. I have church members, family members. But when you watch and listen to Feeling Friends, you will learn and you will laugh. It's a community of friends helping to build each other up. So tune in to Feeling Friends every Sunday on WHCR 90.3 FM, or you can catch me on YouTube at Feeling Friends Radio. All right, I'll see you there. WHCR 90.3 FM, the voice of Harlem. What's up, everybody? It's me, Phil, and I'm back here live in Harlem in my home studio, and you can probably hear all the alarms going off outside. We are in Harlem, y'all. I'm not at the studio. But listen, thank you so much for listening to me every Sunday from 2 to 4 on WHCR 90.3 FM. You can always come here to catch all my new shows. Listen, I've got a great show today. I've got LaNise Thrasher live on air today, and we're talking about love, how to heal from love. I'm going to call her the love guru. She's going to give us advice and tips on how we should start dating, relationships, how to heal from those things. So without further ado, I'm going to bring my friend LaNise Thrasher here. LaNise, what's going on?
Hey, how you doing today?
I'm good. How you feeling?
I'm feeling really good.
It's good to see you.
Good to see you.
Listen, let's go ahead and jump right in because this is a hot topic. I'm excited. I was telling LaNise I was drinking I got my iced coffee, so I'm lit, y'all, right now. Off coffee. Let's go ahead and tell the people who you are.
All right. So hi, everybody. My name is LaNise. I'm an author. I'm a speaker. I'm a life coach and the founder of The Love Cheerleader. That's what everybody calls me. They're like, hey, it's the Love Cheerleader. So that's me. And so what I do is I teach women and some men how to heal after a divorce or a breakup so that they can regain their confidence, not sabotage a future relationship, and finally have freedom. These are things that most people don't take the time to actually do. And I actually love to teach it so they can heal the smart way and not the hard way.
Well, let's jump right into it. And I want you to take your time. Don't rush, because this is a great topic. We go through relationships. We're young. We're young.
We still are young.
We have a lot of people who, you know, as you grow, you go through breakups, you go through makeups, you're trying to figure it out. But then people don't take the time to heal, right? They don't take the time to say, hey, let me just get to know myself. What are some of the things? Let's start out. What do you think? What's the first step to us getting to the point of healing past those relationships?
Well, you know, it's hard, right? So we got to first admit that healing is hard, but we also, in that, we have to accept what actually happened. So a lot of times we don't even want to accept it. We're like, oh, I'll just keep going like nothing ever happened. And I'll keep going to work, going to this event, doing this, being around family and friends, and not actually taking that time to say, I'm hurt, right? Like saying you're hurt is a really hard thing for most people. I know for myself, when I went through heartbreak, I was like, you know, still doing things and doing this and doing that. And it was just hard to even admit I'm hurt. Like my feelings are hurt. Like deep down, I'm hurt. So the first step is you just have to accept it, right? Like you just have to accept it. Stop trying to replay that story over and over and over in your head and try to figure out, where did I go wrong? What could I have done better? Just accept what actually happened.
What does that look like? What does acceptance look like? Like, what is that? Could you materialize that?
Absolutely. Acceptance, I tell my clients all the time to just pause and take a break, because when you are just constantly going, you're telling yourself a new story. So you're going out in the world and you're telling yourself, I'm not hurt. But if you sit down and just get quiet, you're like, no, I'm actually hurt. So you just need to really take a pause, take a deep breath, accept that it happened. And also acceptance looks like loving yourself again. So you've poured all this love into someone else for so long, but you actually need to love yourself. So that actually looks like, hey, I went to the movies and saw scary movies, but do I like scary movies, or did I go because they like scary movies? So it is a lot of relearning who you are in that same process. You're going out by yourself. You're not called you don't have that other person to go with you anymore. So you're going all by yourself. And you're saying, okay, this is scary, but I'm doing it by myself. I'm accepting that this happened. Life still has to go on. So I have to get this done.
And I think that's too. Whitney Houston said in the song, I don't know if she did it or not, but learning to love yourself is the greatest love of all, right?
It is.
It's just really accepting, hey, you know what? This is who I am. I'm going to work on myself. I'm going to be better. I'm going to try to get to know myself, because in order for you to love yourself, you have to love yourself so people can actually love you, right?
Yes. And a lot of people skip that completely. I'm like, if you don't love yourself, how can you love someone else? So you have to love yourself first. And you find out more and more about who you are when you're by yourself. You know, you don't have anybody else telling you who you are. It's like, no, who am I? Like, what do I like to do? Why do I like to do these things? And really, you know, you just get to know you, and then you like say, well, I don't like scary movies. I like to go see comedies. And then you start doing the things that you actually enjoy to do. And then you make new friends. And it's a whole process that happens when you start actually figuring out who you are, what you like, and then the world just opens up.
What do you say to those people? Hey, I can do, you know, I'd rather have somebody than be by myself, and I can figure it out. What do you say though? Because you hear a lot of women say that, I don't want to be alone. Men too. I don't want to be alone. I don't want to be by myself. What do you say to those people? Because a lot of people just don't want to be alone. But what I say to myself is I can do bad all by myself, right?
There it is. That's what I say too. I'm like, you can do bad all by yourself. Like, you don't need to bring anybody else with you, because that's what happens, right? So I tell people all the time, like, especially now, right? I'm in Atlanta. It's getting cold. I'm wearing a hoodie. It's getting chilly down here. And
it's a cuddle buddy season, what they call it.
Right. Cuddle buddies. Like, y'all stop. Like, I'm just being honest with people, because, you know, it's like, just because it's getting cold outside doesn't mean you're just like, I'm just going to accept any and everything. Right. Like, no, just stop it. Like, you have to really figure out, like, this is not okay. So a lot of times when you're accepting any and everything, you know, you're just like, oh, they can do this to me. They can do that to me. Perfectly fine. I don't want to be alone. And I'm like, but you do realize that's just wrong, right? Like, what they're doing to you is wrong. They're disrespecting you. And it doesn't matter that just because they keep you warm, they're still disrespecting you. So that's a whole nother thing.
Is that something that comes from childhood? Is that like a family, a pathology, as a young Van Zandt would say, that you see your parents doing this and so and so and so, so you decide to do it? Is that what that comes from?
It is. It really is. Like, I always have to take it back to, what did my parents teach me? And then I'm like, okay, they're this age. So who did they learn from? And then I take it back to my grandmother. Okay, well, she, you know, was born in this age. Okay, well, then who taught her? And then I trace it all the way back, and I get back to like slavery. And so I'm like, oh, okay, so this is the reason why you continue to do what you did, but it stops with me. So that's just how I've had to navigate it. And a lot of other people too, they're like, wait, this is going back. So that's always what I tell people, is trace it back, and you'll really see where things are coming into play, but make the decision that it stops with you.
So let's start with dating. When let's say, for instance, what are some of the things that you see in people where it's like, okay, this is a wrong step. Let's focus on this when you start to date. Let's give some people advice on that. How do you pick who you want to date, or how you should date, if that's part of your expertise?
Yeah, absolutely. So what are your values? That's the biggest thing. Like, what are your values? What are things that you know without a doubt, this is important to me? And don't go away from that. If it's important to you that you get up on Sunday and you go to church, then that's what you should be looking for in a person. Don't try to dumb it down and be like, well, it's okay. It's not okay, because that's what you said, right? So really get clear on your values and what's really, really important to you. Also learn to communicate.
Are values negotiable? Are they like a hard line? Like, this is the value, this is the core value that I have, and I don't want to sway with that.
There are some values that are like, you can have a little bit of wiggle room, but then there's others that are super important to you, and you should not move past them. I can't tell people what's important to them. Right. What's important to me may not be important to someone else, but you know deep down, like, what's important to you, and just don't waver from it. So if you know, I'll go back to the example of going to church. If you know that going to church is really important to you, you go every Sunday, and you want someone that goes with you, and there's no room for anything else, then that's like hard stop. You got to go to church, right?
Because you can't be dating a person who loves Jesus and then the other person is a devil worshiper. Like, that's.
I mean, that's what we say. We agree on that. Like, we can touch and agree, but people feel how they feel, and I'm like, hey, that's on you. And if that's, you know, something you're okay with, then you're okay with it. But I always recommend that you figure out what's your values, right? So whatever that is, stick to it. Whatever you're like, okay, I don't need to do this, but I'm okay with it, then you can make that adjustment.
Absolutely. What other red flags when it comes to like dating? And then we're going to go to the healing part. What other things do you see with women and men when they're dating? Like, what do you see from the coach perspective?
So the first one that I see is lack of communication. So you're not really communicating, or you're communicating when it's convenient. And so when you're doing that, it's like red flag, because you're not really talking. You don't know who this person is because you're only talking because you have to or because it's good. You're not really having those conversations. So lack of communication is the first thing. Ignoring boundaries. So if you say, I don't, I got to go to bed, don't call me after 11, and you call me at 11, 11:30, 12 o'clock, well, that's a boundary that I set. And I've asked you not to do that, but you are continuously doing this. So that's another one. I'll give you two more. The other one that I'll say is lack of accountability. A lot of times I've met so many people who are like, well, I want this, but don't question me on it. But I want this. And I'm like, well, how does that work in your relationship then if you're not able to be accountable? And then last one is one that most people don't even think about is how do you treat service workers? Are you rude to them? And so I always tell
what does that do? I treat service workers well, but what does that mean to people who don't understand?
It means if they treat a service worker really bad, you need to pay attention to that because that shows their character and who they are as a person. And so if they're just rude to people, why do you want a rude person? Like that's not who you are, right? And a lot of times people forget that when you're dating somebody, that's like a representation of you.
Right.
So if you're rude, I don't want you if you're rude. Like we don't do rude people, Right. So that's just something to really pay attention to.
Those are really good key points. So let's talk about how you help heal women after divorces, because a lot of people are scarred when it comes to divorce. What's the number one thing that you see as what they need to work on as far as healing? Let's just talk about that. I'll let you talk. You run that conversation about the healing for women.
Yeah. So do you mind if I share my story a little bit?
Yes, go ahead, please.
So for me, I actually went through a divorce. I was married for 5 years and then I got divorced and I was just like, okay, what do I do? And I was in therapy at the time and everybody around me was like, you'll be fine. That's it. And I was like, what does that mean? Like, what do I do? Like, give me something, like help me out. And nobody could tell me anything. And I was just like, okay, this is going to be a journey. And so, I really leaned into my faith. I'm a Christian and I really leaned into my faith and I just did trial and error, trying to figure it out. Like do a little bit. Oh, that didn't work. Do a little bit more. Oh, that works. Yeah. Just trying to figure out like, how do I get on the other side? Right. So to be truthful, it took me about 2 years to heal, because I didn't know what to do. Nobody was holding my hand or anything. And so once I got to the other side, I was like, this could have been a lot faster had I known.
How did you feel? And when you say you had to heal, how did you feel? Like, was it a tumultuous time or were you feeling kind of angst? What were you feeling?
I was feeling a little bit of everything. I was on this like emotional roller coaster. One day I'm happy.
Did you feel, not to cut you off, sorry. Did you feel as though you were not successful? A lot of people feel like, oh, I feel like a loser because it did not work out.
Yep. I felt like I was a failure in front of everybody. So my parents have been married. This year makes 42 years.
That's a long time.
A long time.
We don't want it for 2 weeks.
I know. This is such a long time. And honestly, a lot of my aunts and uncles and cousins and stuff, they've all been married. So I'm the youngest of all the grandkids and I'm getting divorced. And so I felt like a complete failure. Like, what in the world? What is happening? Yeah. Like, what is going on right now? So I definitely felt like a failure. I never felt like I would never get married again or anything like that. That didn't really cross my mind. I was just like, I feel like a failure. Like, how is this happening? Like, what is going on? I'm sad. I'm happy. All these emotions were just going through my brain. And then I felt like I let my parents down. And
your marriage felt like you let your parents down as a grown woman?
I did. I felt like I let my parents down because
why did you feel that way?
I just did. It's like I saw my parents be very successful in marriage. And not to say that they didn't have their own ups and downs, but I saw them be married. I saw them work through things. And here I am, like I grew up with that in my house. And here I am just crazy. I'm just not doing what I'm supposed to, like that's what was going through my brain.
Head, right.
Yeah, it wasn't true or anything. My parents were like, don't know where you got that from. They definitely said that, but that's just how I felt at the time. And then also when I got divorced in 2014. So it wasn't even a topic. It was so hush hush. Like I would walk into rooms with people and they'd be like whispering and I'm like, hey y'all, like
Instead of me like, where your husband at?
Right. So it was so much going through my brain. I was like, what in the world am I supposed to do? So that's why I felt like that. And again, nobody made me feel like that. It was just,
it was your own personal thing.
Yeah, it was my own thing.
And marriage, I've never been married. I don't really believe in the whole concept. Don't even get me started on that. But I feel as though that is between you and your spouse. And if it doesn't work out, it just doesn't work out.
Right.
And people just grow apart, right? People get older, people grow apart. And is it harder for women to just move on? Have you noticed that? Or is it for both?
You know, I will say I'm going to be honest with you. I feel like for women, it is very hard to move on, right? But I feel like for men, it is extremely hard for them to move on. And they just hold it all in, bottle it all up, don't talk about it, don't do anything. And then they're sitting in it a lot longer from what I've seen. I've met some men who were scarred from people years ago, like a long time ago, and they're still holding on to it. And I've even asked the question, I'm like, so how are you planning on moving forward? Like, what do you really want to do?
Right.
And they're just like, I don't know. And I'm like, well, there's help. You know, like you don't have to stay there, because I always want people to find love. Like I'm that girl. Like I love love, and I have since I was a kid. And so I'm just like, but I want everybody to find this. So
would you say that once you get out of a relationship, you know how to say just go get somebody else to get over that? Is that a good thing to do?
No, that's just me. I will always tell people.
Well, that's not a part of healing, right? Because you're not really healing yourself, right?
You don't really
heal.
This
one lady online, she said the question was asked, what would you do if you're able to, to move on? She said, all I need is a babysitter and my hair done, and she can move on. But that's not that ain't about healing. That's something else, right?
Right. And I've had those conversations with a lot of people. They're like, that's all I need, and I'm like, I mean, in theory, right? Like, that's really all. But really, you need way more than that, right? Like, you really need to sit down and actually process what happened. Because I know for like when you get a divorce, to go from I'm with someone every day in my house to now I'm by myself, like that's a process. To get from I'm married to I had to stand before a judge and have them sign on the dotted line that I'm no longer married. That's another process. Right. And so you really got to take that time to process everything, because there's things you can learn from the relationship too. But if you just get out there and jump back into something, you get triggered. And how do you handle those triggers when it happens?
Right. How do you handle those triggers? You go to when you teaching in your class, like tell us about if you can give us people. Absolutely. And before we do that, tell people how they can reach you while they're watching the show, listening to the show right now. How can they reach you?
Absolutely. You can find me on Instagram. I'm at The Love Cheerleader. I'm there every day. So you can always find me posting content from the minute I wake up until I go to sleep. I'm always posting some really great content. So definitely follow me there, and you'll find out everything that I'm doing, all the different things that I'm talking about, like webinars, whatever I'm doing, you'll find it right there.
What's the importance of the Black community getting help? Because, for a long time, it was a stigma about therapy. Oh, you're not crazy, I ain't going to therapy. But you can have church, you can have God and Jesus and therapy, right?
Yes.
What's the importance of that?
I always say that. And I always say you need Jesus, therapy, and coaching. Like you need all of it, because Jesus gave it to us, right? Like we're not going to, you don't deny the doctor. So why would you deny therapy or coaching? And so for me, the Black community has been like, oh, I don't need it. I don't need it. And we're the ones, like our generation is the ones that saying, no, I'm gonna raise my hand. I actually do need some help. And so I always tell people it is the best thing you could ever do. Stop running from it. Stop being scared of it. I think a lot of times we don't see ourselves in these therapists and in these coaches. So we think there's no one who can relate to me, but I promise you there's somebody that can relate to you. It might cost you to do a little bit more digging to find it. You might find it in the most awkward place ever, but please don't stop, because it is something that is needed. Mental health is huge, and you don't know how one little thing that you never even dealt with can actually come up a lot later, and it can come out in ways you never expected it.
Let's talk about you talk about mental health. That's so important. Let's talk about a woman or a man who has been cheated on through infidelity a lot of times, and how they heal. What advice would you give to a woman or a man who's listening right now? Like they just don't have trust in people at all. and they've been through the steps, and they're like, you know what, I just want to be by myself, which is really not a good thing to do. You want to be with people, right? You want to be in a relationship, a healthy, some type of companionship. What would you say to them?
I would say be patient with yourself. Going through cheating is hard.
Mhm.
It plays on your mental. You're like, am I good enough? Why did this happen? I mean, it can do a variety of things to you. I've seen people get cheated on and they retaliate, and it can go really bad. I've seen people that got cheated on and they take it all in inwardly, right? And they're just beating themselves up. So whichever way you're going, just be patient with yourself. Like, it's gonna take time, but don't try to heal from that by yourself.
Mhm.
You need somebody that's, been there before, that can actually walk you through, like, what does this look like. I have a coaching program called Conquer Heartbreak Academy, where I actually teach people how to actually go through these things, because
Yeah,
these are
let's talk
things
more
that,
about that. Heartbreak Academy. What does that entail? So while people are listening, you guys need to sign up. What she's talking about.
Yes. So so it's called Conquer Heartbreak Academy. It's a 6-week program where I teach people in my framework, which is called the Pause Challenge. So that's one of the things that most people don't do. We don't take the time to pause. We just keep going, keep going, keep going, keep going. And I'm challenging you to pause. And so we're meeting every week,
What
once a
is
week.
pause? Tell me what that is. What is this pause when you say
So
that?
pause is just taking a minute. Like, stop trying
Yeah.
to add all of these different things in there. Stop trying to add a distraction in there. Stop trying to go back to work and act like everything is okay. Stop trying to ignore everything that's going around you. Like, focus on you. Pause. Like, take a deep breath, take a step back. Let's just pause for a minute. And so I actually really walk them through that. And we talk through, like, forgiveness. A lot of people don't want to forgive. And I'm like, you have to forgive. It's not for you. I mean, I'm sorry, it's not
It
for
is
them,
for you.
it's for
Yeah.
you.
Mhm.
So you have to forgive. So we talk through that. We talk through boundaries. We talk through acceptance. We talk through triggers. Like, how do you work through these triggers? And of course, I work with each person, and I do have group coaching, but I do individual as well. So I really understand, like, what are some of your triggers? Your trigger might be they still have access to you, and they're calling you. So that's now your trigger. And you're like, well, we got to stop that. You can't let them have access to you. You got to have that boundary. So then we talk through boundaries as well. So, and then we just talk about unlearning things that you've learned.
Yeah.
So unlearning the things that were not good for you, and how do we shift that? So we talk through that as well. And then the thing that everybody wants to talk about is dating. How do you date after a heartbreak?
Yeah, and how after I was going to ask you that, let's jump right into it. So you said, okay, you healed, you took your time, you got to know yourself. Now I'm ready to date. What should I do?
Well,
Without selling your course, what should I do?
I know, what should you do?
What should I do?
It's funny. I just made a post about this last week about 4 ways that you're actually ready to date again. And so what I always tell people is, again, you have to process it. Like, have you taken that time to actually process it? But also, I spoke about it earlier. Like, what are some things that are really important to you in a person? What are these things? Like, you don't even know what they are yet, but what are they?
Well, how do you find it though? Because the dating pool is a trash dump. How do
Okay,
you find
so
it? You need to give me some answers. I need some help. I'm tired of being single right now.
I'm not gonna lie to you. Dating is very interesting these days. But you really got to figure out, like, what's important to you, and don't be afraid to say this is important, even if everybody else online is telling you it's not. But in that, let's take good advice. I've seen a lot of garbage advice online about dating, and there's one big thing that's been going around social media all weekend, and I'm like, this is horrible advice. But you just really got to take that time to really figure it out and not just jump into it, because
And you gotta figure out what's good for you, right? Like you said, find out what's good for you. If you want a Will and Jada relationship, go have it.
go have it.
That's whatever works for you. Or you can have Angela Bassett and a Pauletta and Denzel relationship. Whatever works for you is best for you, right?
You can. And the last thing I always tell people is, make sure you're not triggered by your ex when their name is brought up.
Wow.
That's a lot. That's one that most people don't even think about. But you can think you're okay all day long, but then you hear John and you're like, oh, wait a minute. I don't like
that. Your friends always bring the name up just to see if you heal.
You could be like, ask me. Let's see if I'm really there. Because say the name.
Right.
So well, I always say that.
That is really great advice. Listen, I want you to take the final moment, and I want you to I'm going to tell people how to get you again, reach you, and get in contact with you. And I want you to give your final thoughts to our audience. Okay.
Okay.
I'm gonna step off screen. You go ahead and take it.
Okay. Perfect. So Men and women. I focus on women, but I never leave the men out because I want you to know that you are that you mean a lot to me as well. From my heart to yours, please take the time to heal. It is one of the biggest things that you can ever do, because when you don't take the time to heal, you end up bleeding on people who never even hurt you. And so I really want to challenge you to heal. If you need help, please reach out to me. I'm just a DM away on social media. I'm very easy to find. I would love to help you because it's important. And I really want to teach people the smart way to heal versus the hard way to heal. The hard way to heal takes forever, and you don't deserve that. So follow me on Instagram at @TheLoveCheerleader, and I'm happy to help.
Absolutely. LaNise, thank you so much for coming on air. This was a wonderful topic. I got to bring you back on. We have more relationship topics. So hold tight for me in the green room, okay?
Okay, perfect.
Thank you. We want to thank LaNise Thrasher for coming on air. Listen, learn how to love yourself first, because, once you learn how to love yourself, God is in you, and it'll come out, and people will come connect with you and vibe with you. So thank you again, LaNise. You're listening to Phil and Friends right here on WHCR 90.3 FM, the voice of Harlem. I'll see you guys next time. Peace.